Hi everyone, this is Sarah from SRS Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little balloon. This is a hook-only design, so what you will need is a hook, either rainbow loom or crochet, a stitch marker because we are going to be stitching in around and we want to keep track. You'll need some stuffing because we are going to fill him up so he can be squishy. You'll need balloon color. I'm using this hot pink from Michaels, and you're going to need about 284 of these bands. The string on the bottom of your balloon is going to be 5 bands, and you'll need either 2 safety eyes. I'm using 6 millimeters that I got off of Amazon, or you'll need some black bands, and I will show you how to do make some eyes when we get there. And you'll also need a band to do your mouth, and I'm using black. So let's get started. The first thing that you're going to need to do is we're going to make a magic ring. We're starting from the top and working our way down. So with a magic ring, you are going to take 1 band and wrap it around your hook 3 times. This is going to give us these 3 rings. We are going to pull through 6 bands through these 3 to start our circle. Take 1, pull it through, put both ends back on. And then I like to pinch the rings, hold them, and we're going to do a little slip knot. And we're going to continue that. We're going to go back in the circle, pull 1 band through those 3. So now we have on our hook the band from the first slip knot we did, and then we have these 2. So we're going to make a slip knot with that, and then pull another slip knot through. And we're basically knotting the bands together with a little slip knot. So put your band on, pull it through the first, pull it through the second. A lot of times I like to do it in one motion instead of pulling them through separately. So you'll see that. So we're just going to pull them both through. Back in the circle, pull both through. Back in the circle. So let's check to make sure we have 6 stitches. First stitch is on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to put our hook through this last stitch here, 6. And we're going to start our next round. We need to increase it to make it larger. So we're going to put 2 stitches in each of these 6. So we're going to go up to 12. So pull your first through. And this is where I'm going to put my stitch marker so I can keep track that this is the first stitch on the next round. We're going to go back into the same exact stitch and do that over again. Next stitch, 2 bands. This is called an increase, where you put 2 stitches in the same. Next one, put 2 in there also. Next stitch, 1, 2, next stitch, 1, 2, next stitch, 1, 2. And now after you finish this last stitch, you'll see that the next place that you're even able to put your hook back in is going to be where the stitch marker is. So I'm going to put my hook there as we prepare for our next round. Now we're ready for our next row. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a single stitch on our first, and then we're going to increase it again by putting 2 in the next. So we're going to do a single, pull it through, and we're going to move that stitch marker because this is our first stitch on the next round. And we're going to put 2 stitches in the next. 1 and 2. And we're just going to keep repeating that pattern. 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 1 stitch, 2 stitch, as we will go all the way around the circle. And that will make it slightly bigger. 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 1 stitch, 2 stitches, and this is our last set. 1 stitch and 2 stitches here in the last. Here's our second. And the next place we can put our stitch is right here. We're back at the beginning. I'm going to pull our stitch marker out as we prepare for our next row. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a row all the way around, 1 stitch in each. So here's our first. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're back at the end. We'll put our stitch marker in it and get ready for the next row. What we're going to do in the next row is we're going to keep increasing. We're going to do 2 single stitches, and then in the 3rd stitch we're going to put 2 bands. So we're going to pull 1 through. This is our first stitch and where we're going to put our marker. We're going to put our stitch in the next. We're going to do a single there. And then in the 3rd stitch we're going to increase it with the 2. 1, and this is our second, 2. So we're going to keep repeating that pattern. Single, single, double. Back in the same one for the second stitch. Single, the second single, and then the next stitch has 2. One, 2, and then the next stitch has the double. 1, 2. Again, 1 stitch, move over to the next slot, we're doing a second stitch, and then in the next one we're putting in 2 bands. 1, same spot, go back, 2. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, and double in the last stitch. So here we are. For our next row, we're going to do one single stitch all around. So here's our first one. So just keep going all around. I already knew how to crochet before I started doing this, so it made it a lot easier since I understood the decreases and the increases and how to do circles. So if you have some idea of how to read a pattern, also it's very easy to alter rainbow loom bands, to do them for the bands. Although I've noticed that not all patterns work out with rubber bands. You might have to alter something. I made this cute little kitty cat. He was supposed to be with his paws out in front of him, sitting with his tail up in the back. And I made all of the pieces. And then when I went to sew them together, it looked awful. And so I ended up having to try to alter the pieces I made and then sew them in a way that it didn't look so bad. And it actually ended up looking like, sort of like a bear. But it was a good learning experience for me because I learned that not all patterns are going to work. And then I should maybe just take a look at something I see and try to design something myself. That way it'll work. Okay, and we're in our last stitch here, going back in, and there we go. So our next step in our balloon is we need to increase the sides to make it a larger balloon. So you need to do 5 more rows, 5 rows, exactly like this. So I'm going to pause it since they're all the same. So why don't you pause your video and we'll meet back when we're both done with 5 more rows. Okay, welcome back. And now that you've added your 5 rows to make the shape of the balloon, we're going to start decreasing so we can start to create this tapered down to the point, this section right here. So this row, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to do 2 single stitches and a decrease, making it smaller. So I'm going to put my first one in here, move my stitch marker. This is 1. And we're going to do another single. And then we're going to decrease. And how we do that is we put your hook in under the next stitch. And instead of pulling a band through this one, we're going to gather another stitch that's right next to it on our hook. And we're going to do our crochet right through both of those. So you take a band, you pull it through the first one, and then you're going to pull through the second one. Put it back in your hook and finish the stitch just like we have been doing before. So now we're going to keep going. We'll follow this pattern. Do not put your hook in this spot right here because you can see it's connected to right where we did the decrease. You're going to go to the next one here. 2 singles and a decrease. 1, 2. Now let's get that decrease. Grab 1, grab 2. Sometimes when I'm doing my decrease, I pull it through a little bit more just to make sure that the band stays even, and that ends up making the decrease look a little nicer. So that was 1 single. We're doing another one. And now we're grabbing for our decrease. 1, 2. Stretching this, pulling it through even. Single. Another stitch. Now let's do our decrease. 1, 2. 2, and then the decrease. Let's try that over. Decrease. Next stitch on our last set, single, another single, and then in the last 2 stitches we'll do the decrease. 1, 2. And the next place we can put our hook is back in at the beginning here. Our next round is going to be a round of single crochet all the way around. So here's our first stitch, and I'm going to put the marker on. So just single crochet all the way around until you get back to the marker. Should be 18 stitches. We're back to the beginning. Go put your hook in through that first stitch on the next round. We're going to decrease again. We're going to do 1 single stitch and then a decrease all the way around. So on our first stitch, we're going to put our stitch marker back on. This is going to take us from 18 all around down to 12. So here's our first stitch. Let's grab the next 2. 1, 2. Pull a band through. A single stitch in the next. Now let's pull a band through. 2, 1, 2. Single in our next. Double. Grab 2 for the decrease. Single in the next. Now let's do a decrease. 1, 2. Single in the next, and then put 2 stitches. Grab 2 for the decrease. Let's do one more time. Single. Now we're going to decrease one last time. 1, 2. We're getting close to being done. All right, and here we are right back at the beginning. I'm going to take my stitch marker off. We're going to do the eyes and the mouth and stuff it right now. And what I like to do, so I don't have my hook kind of in my way, is I take my stitch marker and I put it on all 3 of the loops that are on my hook. And it gives me a little bit more freedom with my project, and because I need my hook for the next part. So if you don't have safety eyes, I'm going to show you how to do the eyes for the balloon. You're going to want to take 2 black bands, or whatever color you want your eyes, put them on your hook, loop them over so it's doubled. Now let's quadruple it. Pull it over again. And we're going to pull 1 black band through all of this. Put it on your hook. So it's right in the middle. So you're going to want to decide where you want your eyes. Stick your hook up through the middle. Grab one end. Pull it through. And then just come up underneath, catching one of these crochets, one of those bands, and pull this through. And then you can just do a simple slip knot on the back, or use a clip, however you're comfortable. So that's how you can do that. But I bought a package of about, I think, 50 or so of these little safety eyes, and I've been using them on all of my little Kawaii designs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put one of the eyes through wherever I would like it to be, and I'm going to do it on the opposite side from where my, the stitch marker I do in the back. So here I'm going to have this in the front, and I usually like to do my eyes about 3 stitches apart. So 1, 2, 3 right here. And then I decide, does that look good? Are they even? Maybe this eye needs to go over here. You just figure out your placement. And then they're safety eyes because they have this little plastic backing that sticks on them. So when you're using, so they don't pop out. So you go ahead once you're happy with your placement and just put your little back on. Sometimes I find that they're a little hard to push in. There we go. 2 clicks usually I need to hear. Let me do the second one. There we go. So there's his little eyes. And now we're going to do a mouth. And I like to use a little black band. And I'm going to go ahead and snip it. You can also just pull it so it breaks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch open the space between the crochets, and I'm going to slip the band in and slip the 2 cut ends in the holes. So I have a little loop sticking out like that. Now I'm going to flip it inside out. I'm going to grab the end of these 2 bands, these 2, and I'm just going to make a little knot right at the end. Try to scooch it down to the end. That will give you a little bit more room to play with your smile. So then you can pull it out all the way if you want. But I like a little tiny smile, little sweet smile. And now we're going to go ahead and put some stuffing inside him. You can use cotton balls, you can use old bands. I actually had this pillow that I wasn't using, and so I just, ripped the stuffing out from the inside. You can also get a bag of polyfill fiber from one of the local craft stores, like Michael's. I guess maybe Michael's doesn't have it, but Hobby Lobby, Hancock Fabrics, Joann's. I need a little bit more, I think. Fill them however you like. And I usually like to make sure that the back of that knot I put in, you can kind of see it through here a little bit, but I make sure it's pointed upwards. That way it gives me the little smile downwards. See that? You can even kind of slip it underneath the eye so you can't see it as much if it bothers you, but from a distance, you can't really tell it's there. So now we're going to keep going. So I'm going to put my hook back through the 3 loops where I have my stitch marker. So I was just holding my place there. So now we can get ready to continue. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do 1 stitch all the way around. Here's our first. Pull it through and we're going to mark it. That's the first one. Let's do our next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops, go back on there, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and our last one here, 12. I'm going to put my hook back in the first stitch here. Our next row is we're going to decrease it from 12 down to 6. So we have our first stitch on, we need to decrease it again. We're going to grab the next stitch. This is the first time that we've done a decrease on the first stitch. Usually we do a single. So you're pulling it through those 2 stitches, back on your hook, slipping it through, and this is where we're going to put our stitch marker. So that was a decrease. Now we're going to do another decrease. So grabbing the next 2. 1, 2. We're going to decrease again. So not using this one because you can see the bands are attached here. 1, 2. When I started doing decreases, I felt like that was the hardest part, was I kept like decreasing accidentally in the same spot. So 1, 2 for the next decrease. Let's grab the next 2. 1, 2. And this was putting us from 12 down to 6. Whoops, we slipped. 1, 2. Luckily, if anything slips off, it's pretty easy to put back on because they were all sort of knotted together, and the whole thing doesn't come unraveling. And these are our last 2 right here. 1, 2. So now we're at 6 stitches back at the beginning. So our next row, we're going to do 6 all the way around. Six. So here's 1. And we're going to put our stitch marker on. So then we're you might need to put your hand in the hole. Pull it out a little bit so you can find the next stitch. And there it is. 2. The next one is here. 3, 4. Oops. 4, 5. And the last one here is 6. You see that there? Okay. Now we're on our last row. We're almost done. What we're going to do is we're going to make this little flare out part right here. Like this part here is where the knot would be on the balloon. So this is the end of the balloon. So how we're going to do that is we're going to put 2 stitches in each of those 6. So we're going up, we're doing an increase and we're going up to 12. So there's our first stitch. And I'm going to move my marker even though it's the last row. I like to keep it on, keep me on track. Back in the first, where the first stitch was, and we're going to put our second band in. Go to the next here, right there, right next to it. We're putting 2 in this one. 1 and 2. Next stitch, 2 bands inside. 1, 2. Next one, see it right there. Let's put 2 in there. 1, 2. And here's our last one. Let's put 2 in there. 1, 2. And we're back at the beginning. I'm going to take my stitch marker off and I'm going to do a slip knot through this. So I'm going to pull it through the stitch, through what's on my hook, back on, and do a slip knot. And that is your little balloon. Let's hide this. We don't need to see this little tail. So you can hide him up inside. He's pretty easy to hide. Now we're going to do his little string. So what I did was I just took 5 bands of whatever color that you like. And we're going to knot them together. I put one on top of the other, folded it over, and pulled the middle piece through. Made a knot. One over the other, pull the middle piece through, make a knot. The left on top of the right, pulling it through. Left on the right, pulling it through. So we're going to attach it on the inside so that it looks like, it's hanging out from his little spot there. So, oops, this little piece came out again. So I'm going to go inside the balloon, and on one side here, I'm just going to gather 2 bands on my hook. On one side, pretty much can be anywhere. Go over to the other side and grab 2 other bands. So I've got those 4 loops, and I'm going to do a slip knot with this whole long string. So I'm going to pull it through, and then once I have it through, I'm going to put the end back on the hook and pull a slip knot. And that will make my string hang. And you can just go ahead and hide that little guy up there. So this is our little balloon, all done. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel. I've got about 6 or 7 other designs that I'm currently working on filming videos for. If you have any requests on things you'd like me to try, I'd be more than happy to work on that. So just comment in the link below. And again, thanks for watching. Keep looming.